What if I told you that most countries on Earth are not just in debt, but trapped in a system that requires them to stay in debt forever? Not because they're irresponsible, not because they overspend, not because of corruption, but because the global financial system was designed that way. A machine so powerful that it quietly turns entire nations into permanent borrowers. A system so normal that no one questions it, and so complex that even world leaders struggle to escape it. This is the story of the secret machine behind global debt, the mechanism that transformed governments into debt factories, and the financial architecture that turned money itself into a weapon of control. Part 1. Origins. How money became debt. To understand the machine, we have to go back to a time when money was real. For most of human history, money was physical. Gold, silver, copper, grain. If you owned it, you had it. No one could create more overnight. Empires rose and fell on access to real resources. Then banking changed everything. In medieval Europe, goldsmiths began storing people's gold for safekeeping. In return, they issued paper receipts. Those receipts soon became more convenient than the gold itself. People started trading the paper instead of the metal. And then someone realized something dangerous. Most people never came back for their gold. So the goldsmiths began lending out more paper receipts than they had gold. They were creating money from nothing. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking. The foundation of the modern system. The banks no longer stored money. They manufactured it. But there was a problem. If too many people demanded their gold at once, the illusion would collapse. So banks needed protection. That protection came in the form of governments. Part 2. The rise. When governments entered the machine by the 1600s and 1700s, empires were expensive. Wars, colonies, infrastructure, kings needed money, lots of it. Private banks offered a solution. We'll lend you the money. You pay us interest. That was the birth of national debt. The first modern example came in 1694 with the creation of the Bank of England. The British government needed money for war. A group of bankers provided the loan in exchange for interest and control over the nation's money supply. From that moment forward, governments no longer created money. They borrowed it, and every borrowed unit came with interest. Here's the catch. The money to pay the interest was never created. Only the principal was, which means new debt was required to pay old debt. The machine was born. Part 3. The mechanism. How the debt engine works. The modern system runs on 3 pillars. 1. Central banks. Every major country has one. They create currency and lend it into existence. But they do not give money to governments, they loan it. Governments issue bonds. Banks buy them. Central banks buy the bonds. Money enters the system as debt. 2. Commercial banks. They multiply that money through lending. If a bank receives $1 million in deposits, it can lend out far more than that through credit creation. Each loan becomes new money. Each new unit is born with interest attached. 3. Governments. They spend more than they collect. They roll over old debt with new debt. They refinance forever. Debt is no longer a temporary tool. It becomes permanent policy. And the machine grows. Part 4. The breaking point. When debt outgrows reality for decades, the system appears stable. Debt grows. Economies expand. Stock markets rise. Governments spend. But beneath the surface, something is breaking. Debt grows faster than productivity. Interest grows faster than income. Asset prices inflate faster than wages. Eventually, the numbers stop making sense. This is where crises are born. The Great Depression. Banks created massive credit bubbles in the 1920s. When the bubble collapsed, money vanished because money was debt. The 1971 shock, the US abandoned the gold standard. Money became pure paper. Debt creation exploded. The 2008 financial crisis, banks created trillions in mortgage debt. When the loans failed, the system collapsed. Governments bailed out the banks with more debt. The machine never stops, it only resets. Part 5: The Fallout. When nations become hostages. Once a country enters the debt system, exit becomes almost impossible. Why? Because modern economies are built on leverage. Housing is debt. Education is debt. Infrastructure is debt. Healthcare is debt. Corporations are debt. Governments are debt. Austerity causes collapse. Default causes isolation. Inflation erodes savings. Currency devaluation punishes citizens. And creditors always get paid first. Look at history. Greece lost economic sovereignty. Argentina defaulted. Repeat. Libya collapsed. Sri Lanka imploded. Venezuela disintegrated. Zimbabwe hyperinflated. Different countries is same machine. Part 6: Failed fixes. WHY reforms never work. Over the years, governments tried everything. Gold standards, Bretton Woods, fixed exchange rates, monetary unions. Yet, restructurings, bailouts, stimulus, quantitative easing, but none of it changed the machine. Because the machine is not broken, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It concentrates power. It transfers wealth. It centralizes control. It monetizes the future. Every solution just adds more. Debt. Part 7: The Modern Parallel. The debt supercycle. Today, global debt exceeds $315 trillion. That's over 350% of global GDP. Governments alone owe over $92 trillion. Interest payments now consume entire national budgets. In the United States, interest on the debt is projected to surpass military spending. Japan's debt is over 160% of GDP. Europe runs permanent deficits. China built its economy on credit expansion. Emerging markets survive on dollar borrowing. The machine is now global, and it requires constant growth to survive. No growth equals collapse. No borrowing equals recession. No inflation equals default. So central banks print, governments spend, and debt grows. Part 8: The Real Purpose of the Machine. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The machine doesn't exist to create prosperity. It exists to create control. The debt is power. Whoever controls credit controls governments, corporations, resources, labor, trade, war. This is why central banks are independent. Why monetary policy is untouchable. Why financial institutions are too big to fail. The machine is the backbone of modern civilization. Conclusion: 3 takeaways. Takeaway number 1: debt is not temporary, it is structural. It is permanent. It is baked into the system. Takeaway number 2: money is no longer wealth, it is a claim on future labor. A promise backed by nothing but confidence. Takeaway number 3: nations are not broke, they are captured by a system that monetizes their future. Final warning: the secret machine doesn't collapse all at once. It grinds slowly. It inflates quietly. It erodes purchasing power year by year. And when it finally resets, it always does. The cost is paid by citizens, not creditors. History doesn't repeat, but debt cycles always rhyme.